This is Hookmod, a framework I made 6 years ago. Um, Still use it. Use it for all my Node.js projects. Um, I guess you could say I use it in place of React or Vue or some other leading framework. But this does what I need it to do, and it's very simple, very lightweight, and maybe it can do what you need it to do too. So first, I'll talk about the capabilities. This is my website. It's a game I've been working on. I'm eventually going to replace this website with something else, but for now, this works to show you. So I built this using Hookmod and some server-side stuff. Um, this is a Discord activity and a web app. So it's a single-page web application. Um, and basically, I made this like environment with windows, and you can move them around, drag them. So Econis is an economy simulation game. It has resources, company types, worlds, um, and uh, and people. This world is really old. Year 52,887. Yeah, it's pretty late. So um, these are some charts. It's a really I haven't really opened this in a while. Like it's very inactive. But in short, um, people work at companies. Companies produce resources that goes to the economy. Um, and people can buy and sell from companies. Um, so yeah, um, it's I accidentally closed that. This is like the world. I guess I'll just close all these. So and like this is a full screen window, so like I can actually like take it off of full screen, resize it, and you can use the map like as a small window. Just to give you like some capabilities of this framework. So you can click on tiles in this little demo, and you can see what country it is, where the position is, what type of terrain, and the owner if somebody owns that tile. Not all tiles are owned. This one doesn't have an owner. Um, this one does. We can click on the owner. This is the owner. Um, this is Geraldine Kim, citizen of Country 3, with looks like wait, is that 15 million? 15.5 million bucks. They got vegetables, few resources, not very much, pretty modest. Right now they're moving a random direction. No goals. Okay, so they're saying if water's low, look for water. And basically the people will keep looping through these goals and stuff like that. So like basically I'm trying to show you this is a powerful front end framework, and let's see how it works. So I'm going to inspect, go to the network. Actually, I don't need the network. I'm going to go to the debugger, go to JavaScript and hookmod.js. So what Hookmod does is it bundles all your files into like one big file. This one for this project is like almost 10,000 lines of code. If I go here, so this is the source code for the Econis project. Um, so these are all the top level modules. I have a Discord auth module to handle Discord authentication. Um, uh, that's so it can work as an activity. Um, so and then I have this icon picker, which would work. Oh wait, no, where is it? This one. So for example, like the brewery has this icon. You can choose an icon, and they're here. There's a lot of cards, but there's all kinds of icons. I can just search for beer, and I can maybe switch it out with one of these if I wanted. Um, I mean, so this is how it works. So it takes this folder, which is 593 and some change kilobytes. Um, I mean, and that's pretty small. It's not as big as Bootstrap. um, so it's this is an order of magnitude smaller than something like React. Um, like as far as the size of the code base is. So like if I reload and I there it is, 420 is what it ends up being. So it I mean without even minifying, um, because like as you can see, I didn't do make any attempt to like take white space out really, maybe in some CSS files possibly, but yeah, it's just lightweight by nature. And I guess I could just take a minute to go and find a simple module. The chat box is really simple. Um, and we got this. So basically, i- your main files are inside of your folders. You create a main file, and this is like a class body, right? So you could put a constructor. If I wanted, I could put a private property here, right? Um, because it's like that's legal inside a JavaScript class. But you don't have to export because it bundles it. It wraps a class body around it. Um, so it's just really really simple. You basically have a constructor, and if you're interested in this sort of thing, you can have on fetch. The difference is constructor gets run only the first time your module is fetched. On fetch gets called every time your module is fetched. Most of the time, you're really like applying styles to the page, to the head and stuff, and maybe loading the template. Um, you only got to do that once usually. Sometimes, like this one, I have an open applet method, which I actually use. Uh, this is specific to my what I'm doing, and you can do this too. So like, I have a whole bunch. Basically, any of my modules that are also an applet, which is these little window things. Those have an open applet and a close applet method. Um, Render UI, I think that's specific to this um, module, but like this is a method that I create on several modules. It's not Hookmod specific. I named it that. I could have named it, um, anything else, but it it I like naming things the same in different modules if they do the same thing. That's just a preference. And if you don't want to call it render UI, maybe just call it render. You could do that. And yeah, but this is not Hookmod specific. Hookmod doesn't care if you render or don't render. Um, it's not like all complicated like React. So like basically, so like I'm loading. Um, so like you can load files as functions basically. Um, CSS in this version of Hookmod is static. In a later version, you can actually add uh, like variables that would to make this like dynamic. I'll give you an example actually. So like in this basic Hookmod example, I have this article or style.css. I have an article class in it, and I set color to this, right? So what Hookmod's going to do is it's going to wrap this file in backticks and include it as something you can reference. So in this case, I got this here. So this.ui.style is it, and that's because the folder's name is UI. So if I would have named this folder templates, it would have been this.templates.style. Make sense? So then, short of the file extension, you just call the name of the file. And this is why it has to be a valid JavaScript variable. You cannot start a file with a number, and you don't want to use special characters. Obviously, the extension doesn't count, so you could use like dot, whatever it is, and that's important because um, based on uh, let's see, in the extensions. So this is the supported extensions for Hookmod lib extension. So we support CSS, HTML, JS, and JSON right now. We might do JSX in the future, but I don't. I'd have to do some testing to see if it's even necessary. Just because the HTML extension is just so powerful with just built-in JavaScript, and it highlights good, as you can see. You can pass this since Hookmod will wrap this file in backticks. So when I say this .title, this .content, I can use that. And let's say so I have this um, data.json, right? So this is the data that I'm going to put in that article. So it says, hey, how are things for the content, right? Very simple, just for an example. So what I do is first I append the style to head, and then I I do this. So this is obviously it's calling the UI folder, the article file, and I'm using .call to give it this data. So this .ui.data. So this .ui.data is actually JSON. So JSON in Hookmod, it doesn't allow. I'm not allowing people to do things inside backticks in the JSON. I want it to be very simple, like this, like JSON be JSON. Okay, CSS, HTML. We got some templating capabilities. Um, but so this is how it gets the data. So I get this .ui.data returns exactly this object ready to use, already parsed, and it passes that to this article file, which it just builds this article. So the file structure for this project, I have a config JSON. So this is specific to the serve framework, which I'm using for server side. Also very simple. I'd love to show you serve. I use that with Econis as well. So between serve and Hookmod, I pretty much build all my full stack projects with those. I build my own tools. That's what I'm familiar with. They're simple, low overhead, and get the job done, and they don't inhibit me. So this is the file structure. I start by a run.js. This is the execution to how I start the server. I have this private folder. It has an init file. It has some extensions. I got hookmod.js. This is the hot reloader. So if I were to change anything, like let's just say, I'm gonna say how are you instead. So I'm actually not going to save yet. Let me show you. So yeah, so right now it says, hey, how are things? You click on this, it'll toggle the style, just testing the JavaScript. Um, if I go here, you could see that the source map is working. So I can click on script.js and you could say console.log. You clicked on an article, it takes you exactly to the right line in this virtual file right here. Right, so I can see all this file, and you can see it says how are things. So I'm going to change it right now to say how are you. And I'm just going to hit Control S, and that's saved. And now I'm going to refresh. It says how are you. So that's the hot reloader working. And as you can see, this is the terminal. It says, hey, you made a change. This is actually before, but the most recent one is, I think, these lines. Yes, modules compiled. So it compiles the modules, redoes the source map, all that stuff. All you got to do is refresh, and yeah, that works. With Econis, I actually have a way. I have the capability for the server to send data to the client web browser and tell it to refresh. Um, so this is a very powerful framework. If you do an update, you can force your users to update their state so that if people have a page running, maybe it just has like statistics in an employee break room or something. Um, like you can just automatically refresh their state, and things like WebSockets may get disconnected and they'll reconnect automatically. And all of that is like a lot of it I do myself, but the framework makes it easy for me to like organize it. Um, and another thing, if you don't mind, like if you ever code with AI, these frameworks are really small. AI will have trouble if the if it's too much memory, if they have too much memory they're dealing with, right? So less memory. There's a there's a I guess there's a point of diminishing returns with AI when it comes to memory. If you have too little memory, if you don't give it enough memory, I should say, you don't give it enough information, it won't be able to help you very much. Now, real popular frameworks, it's pretty good. Sometimes they still hallucinate. They'll use old versions of code and things like that. They're getting better at that, but like there's something to be said about a framework that's small enough to copy into the memory of like GPT-4 or Grok, and the AI understands it like through and through. Like it I've experimented with this, and like there's things that you could do with Hookmod that I would think that like I wouldn't have thought of using it that way, and I wrote it. So I mean, I like I made this thing uh dynamic, so there's a lot of potential, but like some of the things that like Grok was doing to like reference the things in the prototype are not ways that I designed it to work, but it worked for them. And like the reason it came up with these ideas is because I didn't send it the README. If you send it the HookMod README, it's far better, and it'll try to do things that way. Um, but but even without the README, like you can just send it the HookMod code base, and it's like, oh yeah, this is a front end JavaScript framework, and you can say like build me a windowing system, and it can it can do maybe not something like this advanced, but over time you can get it to create like a base and modify it to your needs, and add micro advancements, and you can, I mean, just copy all 10 files to an AI, and it's small enough that there's plenty of memory to also make your project or help you with your project. So yeah, so that's Hookmod. Um, and as you can see, its source maps are working. Um, and so this is a smaller, so this is less than 100 lines of code. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 files. And these files, let's see, 10 lines there. So now we're at 25 lines. There's 15 there. So let's see, 29. So we got about 33 lines of code just in this single module. So Hookmod adds about 75 lines. But as this increases, it's like most of it is just this first part. And it's a very bare bones framework, like from here up. So what is that? Is that 18 lines? So yeah. So this is basically the whole Hookmod framework. It's very simple. You get fetch, on fetch, listeners are special, and yeah, and then it builds your classes. So it builds my first class here. It wraps class body, and I have my constructor code here. As you can see, it's basically that simple. And then after that, it adds a little bit more boilerplate, but then it immediately now working on this folder, the UI folder. So it just turns that into an object, and then inside that object, we start adding properties, right? UI.article equals that. And then we add we set this prototype to the classes prototype. So this essentially becomes a class member, this article function, or this article function, I should say. So this actually becomes a class member, and then data, same thing, it becomes a class property. And that's how it works. So, oh yes, so here's so this is an article. So you can see it's a function, right? So this is the HTML file. So we got this, I'm using this. We don't have jQuery. Hookmod, if jQuery is not present, it will create just enough to make this work, right? So it'll turn this HTML into a list of node elements. In most cases, like you don't have to have one div and everything inside it. You can have like a div article and then a div underneath that. So this could actually be like a collection, a node collection. Um, yeah. I actually had to do a little bit of work for that to work, but not much. I mean, like here's the source. This is it. Like jQuery is not present. This is it. You know. So I basically say if it's one element, then I just return that. Otherwise, I return the list. So and that um is basically it. So there's the data, and now we're looking at the script function. So and then finally the style, and this is the style. In backticks, this dot color gets replaced with whatever whatever you tell it to. So yeah, it's very lightweight framework, does everything you need to do, and you can turn your uh, idea into a system using Hookmod if you want. So yeah, free, open source. Enjoy.